Hello, my name is Jacob Yunker. I am the pastor of the Franklin United Methodist Church located at 82 West Central Street in Franklin, Massachusetts, and online at franklinumc.org. This is the first reading. On Sunday, January 10th, we will begin a new series on the Gospel of Mark. Our reading is from Mark chapter 1, verses 1 through 13, and I will be reading from the Common English Bible. The beginning of the good news about Jesus Christ, God's Son, happened just as it was written about in the prophecy of Isaiah. Look, I am sending my messenger before you. He will prepare your way. A voice shouting in the wilderness, prepare the way for the Lord, make his paths straight. John was in the wilderness, calling for people to be baptized to show that they were changing their hearts and lives and wanted God to forgive their sins. Everyone in Judea and all the people of Jerusalem went out to the Jordan River and were being baptized by John as they confessed their sins. John wore clothes made of camel's hair with a leather belt around his waist. He ate locusts and wild honey. He announced, "One stronger than I am is coming after me. I'm not even worthy to bend over and loosen the strap of his sandals. I baptize you with water, but he will baptize you with the Holy Spirit." About that time, Jesus came from Nazareth of Galilee, and John baptized him in the Jordan River. While he was coming up out of the water, Jesus saw heaven splitting open, and the Spirit like a dove coming down on him. And there was a voice from heaven, "You are my Son, whom I dearly love. In you I find happiness." At once the Spirit forced Jesus out into the wilderness. He was in the wilderness for 40 days, tempted by Satan. He was among the wild animals, and the angels took care of him. The fact that Mark's gospel does not begin with any mention of Jesus' childhood is interesting to me. I know when I meet people or read a book with a bunch of characters, I like to know a little bit about their backstory. The writer of Mark offers us nothing. Maybe the community reading this gospel already knew Jesus' backstory. Maybe they didn't care. I don't know. I don't know that there's much there that I really want to explore this week, but it's interesting. I think the part of this text that resonates most with me right now is the fact that after Jesus is baptized, after the voice from heaven affirms that Jesus is God's Son, whom I, quote, dearly love, God's Spirit forces Jesus out into the wilderness where he will be tempted by Satan. What I find interesting about that part of the story is twofold. First, being loved by God does not mean that you won't be forced into the wilderness. In fact, making a commitment to change one's heart and life may mean that we're on the fast track to temptation. Change is hard. The second thing that I find interesting about this story is where it takes place. After his baptism, Jesus is forced out into the wilderness. But if we look closely, Jesus is already in the wilderness. Mark 1:4 places John the Baptizer in the wilderness. This is where Jesus meets John. I wonder what it means for Jesus to be wandering in the wilderness when he meets John. I wonder what it meant for Jesus when the heavens opened up in the wilderness and Jesus heard that voice from heaven that said, "You are my beloved Son, whom I dearly love. In you I find happiness." What does it mean that he is forced farther into the wilderness after his baptism? What is the significance of the wilderness? These are a few of the thoughts and questions I have after first reading the text. What thoughts and questions do you have about it? Write your thoughts, questions, comments, and doubts below and join the conversation with me this week. I hope you'll consider joining me and the people of the Franklin United Methodist Church as we worship together on Sunday at 10 a.m. and continue our reflection beyond this first reading.